Thank you all for joining our panel. I already introduced myself. So I'm Stephen Chin, VP of Developer Relations. We'll all do quick self-intros. I'll add to my intro that I'm also a speaker at a lot of AI conferences, particularly on topics of GraphRag, and spoke together with Easy on GraphRag and Opia, because we're contributing to the Opia project as well.
Great workshop. Yes, I'm Easy, Lanza, in case if you don't remember. I'm a tech chair, and I'm also board of the LFI and Data. I used to work and collaborate with great partners, as Neo4j, as you, InfiniEdge, and multiple partners to collaborate. So yeah, this way.
Hi, I'm Tina Zhou. I just talk. I'm contributing to the LFAI and data community. I'm the TSC member of Opia, InfiniEdge AI TSC chair. I used to be the board chair for LFEdge for 2 terms.
Microphone? Oh, maybe it's not.
You turn it off? I did the same, don't worry.
Okay.
He told me the button is there. Sorry. So my name is Arnaud de Hors. I'm part of the IBM Open Technology Group. I'm an open source, open standards specialist. Been doing this all my life, literally. I did my first open source contribution in 1990 with a little piece of code that still runs in particular in HP laser printers. I have one next to my office, next to my desk that I found is running my code, so it's pretty cool. I've been working on different open source projects over the years. I'm involved in different Linux Foundation organizations, primarily nowadays with OpenSSF, which is a meeting on the other side of the corridor. And I'm involved in LFAI and Data, where I serve as co-chair of the Generative AI Commons, which I will talk about more later on.
Okay. Cool. So great to have all of our experts here. What we're going to do for the panel is we'll start with a quick lightning round. We'll do some discussions, and then we'll have some audience Q&A. So if you have any questions, just kind of hold them till the end, and then we'll give you a chance to ask our panelists. All right. So here's our lightning round question. So I know we all don't like to choose our favorite baby, but I'm going to ask you which Linux Foundation project is your favorite?
You mean LFAI?
Yeah.
Or Linux Foundation?
LFAI. Yeah. Which LFAI project is your favorite, and why? And 30 seconds, go.
Oh, God. If I don't say Opia, people will kill me, so I will say Opia. But I will also say OpenFL, because it's another strategy to train models like federated learning. I will say OpenFL because of federated learning, and Opia because it gives you the deployment, make it real use case. It's not just AI, it's AI and deployment. And I feel myself in the middle, like with tons of things related with Opia.
Oh, well, you're the TAC chair. Like, you have to take care of all your babies.
Exactly. Yeah. That's why I choose just one, so it's complicated.
All right, Tina.
Yeah, I have 2 children. Can I choose 2? Yeah, so my favorite 2, Opia and Onyx, because we actually use it in our the commercial deployment.
Right. So I was going to say Onyx too, and it's open and neural network exchange format. And the reason is because it's extremely popular and very useful. It's been around for a while now. And so it's a format to move models from one framework to another. And it's a great piece of technology to add interoperability between different environments. And I showed that I'm not completely biased. Although IBM is supporting it, I could have said other projects that I don't.
Dockling.
I know, I could say Dockling, BAI, and Gen AI Commons and stuff, but.
Okay, so that's really good. And I think we've actually teed up a lot of interest for the lightning round later on. Now, earlier I asked folks how many folks in the audience were already contributing or members of LFAI, and quite a few weren't. So why don't we just kind of cover the basics on how do you get involved in the LFAI community? And I'll start out by just pointing out that to participate and to be part of the LFAI community, You don't need to be a member. Like, you don't need to be from a member company. Anybody can contribute, can join the working groups, can participate, just as an individual. And what other like resources or advice would you give people who are interested to contribute?
So don't be shy. We don't bite. So, like for instance, in generative, well, you're not sure, Jill?
Sometimes, just a little bit.
Come on, you don't want to scare them away. No, but seriously. So I know it can be intimidating. Personally, I've done that all my life at this point, so I'm kind of used to it. But you know, you come into a new organization like this, you need to find the project that sounds interesting to you. It's okay to get it wrong and say, maybe not, and to move on to another one. But you know, all the projects have public calendars where you can see which, you know, when they actually have meetings. Typically, we have teleconferences every now and then. And so you just show up. And this is the key part. I'm serious. I'm not joking. You just show up. Typically, we make an effort to welcome newcomers. We kind of look at the list of participants. We spot new names. We say, hey, you want to introduce yourself? Tell us why you're here. You don't have to. If you're intimidated, you don't say anything. You say, sorry, it's okay. You will just say silent. But it's a good way to just come in and you can listen in. Initially, you probably don't want to contribute. It's okay. You just listen, get a feeling for what people are doing. And then slowly but surely, you can start contributing. And that's how you kind of get involved. If it's a code-based, like some projects, right, depending on the nature of the groups, some they are like more discussion forums, they might be working on best practices, guidelines, or some education material. Others, they are really writing code, and then it's a bit different. You probably want to look into, you know, issues that you can try to start fixing and stuff like this.
Yeah, I'd say that is also a great place, well, there's not too much to add on what you said, but I would add that, first of all, you don't have to be technical, because sometimes we are scared like, hey, I need to be an expert if I would like to contribute to this. And the reality is that you don't need to be an expert. So there are tons of things that are not related with 100% technical knowledge. You can help on the documentation, content creation, or collaboration, or whatever. You can do a lot of things there. And also, I would say try to find a project that you like the technology. To help, if you are an expert, it would be great. Or if you are not an expert and you would like to learn from that particular technology, there's also a great space to go and learn. For instance, with federated learning, I started work with federated learning on that few years ago. And I didn't know anything at the beginning. So I started to get involved, and that's when you actually learn, right? Because you are doing the things. And be collaborative, be kind.
Don't be formal.
Yeah.
Formal.
Don't be formal.
FOMO.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I actually joined this LVN data from the beginning when it was founded. I went through 2 companies. I just from an individual contributor and becoming like some TSC members. I feel like it's very friendly and the scope is broad. Like you can swing from the swimming pool to a bay and to an ocean. It's because it's not tied to any specific hardware or accelerators. And you can go from all the way from Omnix and to the Air Commons and to the OPIA. Like today, Izzy and I talked to one of AI infra team. They do the training, they do the inference. We discuss how the broad scope, flexibility, and can welcome them as a new home of the other third-party repo. They are really interested to contribute and bring their project to here. From here, I feel like it's very welcome environment here. And don't be shy, just ask. I feel like especially our tech chair is very approachable. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so I mean, there's a lot of ways to get involved in the LFAI. Check out the website. You could join the Slack group, find out where all the meetings are, participate, and be part of the community. One of the big activities which happens regularly is the TAC meetings.
Bi-weekly.
Bi-weekly, and that's also a chance where projects get discussed and new projects can get proposed. So can you talk us through kind of the life cycle of a project in LFAI?
Yeah. So that's a good point. The TAC meetings, they are open to the public, so you can attend. Any person can attend. Just go to the site, you sign up, and you start receiving the updates, or even in the Slack channel. And the idea of that is to talk about the technology, to talk about the projects. We invite the projects to come and talk. If you don't know what Onyx is, as it was mentioned, so we invite them, they present the project, and they show them on everything. And something that happens is we accept the projects, right? So if there's a new project that would like to be part of Linux Foundation, we accept of those projects, we do a voting, and once it is accepted, it's part of the Linux Foundation, which the benefit of that is to have broad governance, right? It's not just one company behind that. You ensure that nothing will happen as happens with Redis, for instance, that something changed the license in the middle. So it's the Linux Foundation behind of that, and it's like the agnostic governance. And there are multiple stages, right? So once the project starts, it's just in the sandbox part, which is one contributor, probably one person, and there are multiple stages. The project keeps growing, and it has multiple contributors from more than 10 companies or more than 50 companies. It moves to the next stage, which is incubation. And this is why when you say the graduated project, it's when you meet all the checks. Like you have multiple companies participating, not just one person, amounts of collaborators, maintainers, and all this stuff. Some projects never reach to that side because the technology changes and things that happens in the technology because it's so dynamic. But mature projects like those 15 projects that you mentioned, those projects reach on that stage. And if you go to the GitHub of Onyx, for instance, you will see what is a mature project, right? So you see there are tons of contributors, there are tons of maintainers, people solving issues, pull requests. There's a clear roadmap. That kind of things is when you reach the maturity level of the project.
Okay, and I think we have the co-chair of the Gen AI Commons group here. Can you talk a little bit about what the goal and purpose of the group is and how folks can get involved and contribute?
Yeah, so Gen AI Commons, as its name implies, we focus on generative AI and Commons because it's really meant to be primarily a discussion forum among people interested in that part of the LFAI. And we have different projects. I'll have the presentation, short one later on, where I'll get a bit more into the details of the different activities we have. But they are very open, where back to the point, you don't have to be a technical person necessarily. We have people from a lot of universities and with very different backgrounds. As you probably know, one of the power of open source is open collaboration is the richness we have from people coming with very different backgrounds, different skills. And this is a good example where we have a good mix of people. I'm actually not an AI expert. I work with colleagues that have done that for 15, 20 years. I'm an open source guy. That's my expertise. So I can tell you that, for instance, what I brought in Gen AI Commons, there was a project that I thought was very interesting called the Model Openness Framework, which was referred to before. And it was a paper. And it was 50 pages of paper written in kind of like, inspirational tone. And I have a background in standards development, and I wrote a spec in 15 pages with very precise, concise wording that helped, push the envelope and make it more concrete for people to be able to use. And it showed that, there was a match with the skills that I had that I could bring into the group. And people were like, wow, this is fantastic. Let's, And so this is an example of the kind of contribution you can have, even if you don't have the expertise in the domain you engage in.
Okay, and I think as a very long-time member of LFAI, Tina, you can all probably talk to ways people can contribute and also kind of convince their boss to give them time to work on LFAI projects or community.
Okay. So there are 2 points I want to mention. One is the hands-on experience. No matter how much you can be hands-on, there are always people helping you, like this teddy bear project we have. So Hashim is a student from San Jose State University, and the rest is from the chipset companies and app companies and the community developers and volunteers. We made this with like a variety of teams. Yeah, and I like this part. And the other part is I feel it's so agile and forward-looking of this community. Like recently, you probably watched the Twitch.tv. You see Gemini plays the Pokemon for 400 hours, right? Is it 400 hours? Like a crack at the game. You also see 12?
It's a lot. No,
It's a
I
lot,
don't know.
yeah.
It's a
yeah,
lot.
it depends on the performance. And also you see like OpenAI, like Cloud, they also play the Pokemon there. And people even charge $20 per month to watch the agent playing the games there. And now in the Tiger team of AI and data, we're discussing maybe we are creating a new area working group like GenAI Common for the coding agent. We are always like at the top of the wave. Like we don't wait for like 2 years to go through all the process. It's there. We're in the center of the AI era, and I think this is the way I really found like it's attractive to be just part of the community. Yeah, it has a lot of fun.
Okay, so I think we're going to switch and do a little bit of Q&A with the audience, give you all a chance to ask questions, what you're interested in hearing from our distinguished panelists. I'm going to run the mic. This is number 3, so just keep the levels low enough we don't get feedback, so I can pass the mic around the audience. So just raise your hand if you'd like to ask a question.
Oh, yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about how the working groups and the initiatives are different from an official project? Like what's the differentiation there?
That's a question
I
for
can go.
you.
I can go. Yes. Yeah, the working groups, different. The main difference is we join for a particular topic, right? The same thing as happened with the MOF, for instance, right? There's one initiative that there's a problem in the environment, for instance, at that moment. There was a huge discussion about open source. Yeah, I don't want to go in that conversation, but there was a big problem, or that the community said, we need to define what is open source AI. So we created a working group to discuss that and to create like a paper, a specification or something that is what the Linux Foundation thinks about that. And there are multiple working groups, for instance, with agents or with MLOps, and BAI and data, machine learning security. There are tons of working groups that they work for specifications on something specific, instead of an ongoing project which has multiple different things, right? Because a project is a project with a GitHub and with everything. And that's why, going to the initial question when Stephen asked about the projects, someone mentioned the MOF. So the MOF is not a project itself. It's something that came out from a working group. And after that working group is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, right? But that's the main goal of the working groups.
Okay.
But I think the main distinction is projects technically, right? In the governance structure of the LFAI and data, projects are code-centric and working groups are not. They're more like discussion, working on deliverables like education material and so on.
Okay. Hi, Charles Eckel. And I attended the UXL summit this morning. It was my introduction to that. I'm trying to figure out how the efforts I learned about there, how they kind of relate to this, and if they're aligned or two different approaches, or if there's synergy, especially with the OPIA project. It seems there's a lot of similarity in terms of writing stuff that'll run on multiple different environments. Yeah. So if you could help me out there, that'd be great.
Yeah, I can take that. Yeah. The UXL is based on the heterogeneous for the hardware, right? So how I can see it is the LFA and data projects are a bit on top of that, right? So for instance, OPA is on top, or VLM or Onyx, they are a bit on top of that. But all of those projects rely on those same concept of I would like to be hardware agnostic, and we need to have something at UXL to have an abstraction layer and to make it independent of the hardware. Because one of the main problems we have in AI is we create a code, and that code is 100% dependent of one hardware. So from the Linux Foundation, from the LFA and data, that specification has to come more from the low level, which is what the UXL is doing. So, but from the AI perspective, we take those specifications and we take advantage, and we build projects on top of that. But we share the same concept. We share the vendor agnostic. We don't want to have one specific hardware for something, and so on. So that's the main goal. For those of you that are not familiar with UXL, how many of you are familiar with UXL? Kind of, okay. UXL is the abstraction layer for a hardware. So if you like to interact with a hardware, instead of learning a specific language, like, I want to say CUDA, but you learn C++ or SQL or one specific open source language, and you can select, okay, that code, I would like to use it on Intel or AMD or ARM or Qualcomm. And you don't know what is happening underneath. That's what the project is taking care of. So the same concept of avoiding the vendor agnostic is the concept that we also take it from the LFI and data.
Yeah, it's like a name and or OPIA, right?
Yep.
The abstract for the accelerators.
Okay, great. And we have time for 2 more questions. So just raise your hand if you want to ask a question. Okay, so we have someone in the back. Give me a sec.
Hello. We've seen sort of, I guess, the last year or so, a lot of the AI sort of open source projects one seems to be coming out every week. And I was just wondering, in terms of LFAI, how have you had to adjust to that, or do you see that sort of as sort of changing how we sort of consume open source or anything like that, or is it been largely the same?
I can answer the question if you want. So my point of view, at least on this, I mean, it's no different than any other domain, honestly. You know, you choose any domain, you'll find all sorts of open source projects, some of which compete with one another. The big difference we have in the Linux Foundation organizations in general is this open governance aspect. And so companies like IBM, we just brought those 3 projects that were mentioned earlier, because we believe in open governance. And I think the trend we have seen that seems to unfortunately gets more and more popular of pulling the rug by changing the license on a project when the project is under the governance of a single vendor actually is a testament to the need to have an open governance. So LFAI in data welcomes new projects all the time. We also have a process we're in the process of also archiving some of the older ones that are dusty and that have, not so much momentum anymore. And this is why we have this life cycle of projects. And so there is no, it's a very dynamic environment. We don't have any specific activities with regard to, or concern with the fact that there are projects that are not part of LFAI and data. That's just the way it is. There's plenty out there and people choose to bring it or not. We hope that, in LFAI and data, we have a structure that's well established. As been said, it's 7 years old. We have a governance that functions, and we hope it makes it attractive enough for companies to consider bringing their project underneath this umbrella.
Okay, great question. And we have time for 1 more question from the audience. So who would like to get the last word? Well, the last question before our break. All right, so.
Yeah, so my question is what Jill was asking. So can you tell us, like, is it a website where we'll see all this? Is it a WebEx meeting usually? Who moderates the meeting? How many people show up? If there are like 15 people in one meeting, then I don't know what. How do you contribute to it? So how do you manage so many people if they show up, and if people just randomly show up, they don't be consistent? How do you manage those aspects?
Yes, there is in the LFI and data site, you will see all the working groups that are available. There are these 5 or 6, and within those working groups, you can have another work group when you start talking with these people, for instance. Something that we started a few months ago, I think, is like tiger groups, which is this: if you attend to tag meetings or those meetings, we talk about that. It doesn't happen on the tag meeting. It happens separately, same bi-weekly meetings that they talk about a specific effort. There's usually one leader, one kind of chair that is organizing that, because sometimes it's complicated to, as you mentioned, right? If you have 10 people, 20 people, but they usually have an agenda, what has to be discussed or discussed. But those communications usually goes from the Slack channel, or if you go to the site, you can sign up to all of the working groups, all of the distribution lists. There's groups.io when you can see all the working groups that you have available, and you can sign up to that.
Yeah, I witnessed he did very good for the orchestration of all the AI workflows.
Yeah. We are not yelling everywhere like in the city. Yeah. We try not to not do it, but
All right, so great questions and a big round of applause for our panelists.